Hello YouTube, and today I'll be doing a tier list for each of the World 2 story modes. This isn't for what units are meta, but I'll be ranking the story modes themselves by a number of factors, such as how fun they are, how challenging they are, and the amount you get for completing them. And before we go, make sure to subscribe if you like ACD content, because we're closing in on 100 subscribers. And yeah, without further ado, here is the list. So at the bottom of the list is Training Forest from My Hero. The story mode was just complete hassle to get through, and I might be a little biased since it was the last story mode that I completed before 2 times speed came out. It just really wasn't any fun at all. The paths are super uneven, and one takes like a super long time for the boss to even get into your units' range. And there's also a ton of rage units that spawn towards the mid game around wave 10 to 12, and since the paths, take so long to bring enemies into range, the game starts to lag like ridiculously, and it takes a long time from the get to the range, causing wave skip limit to hit. So if you're not using a map clearer like Aaron, it's going to take a very long time to complete. And the mount you get from the story is also pretty mediocre. It's just Ida's legs from his quirk. And if you want a mount that just makes your character run faster instead of riding something like a skateboard or something like that, I would just go with Lightning Cloak from Ant Cave. And yeah, that's why Training Forest is last place. In sixth place, we have Skyfleet or Skypiea for One Piece, and this story mode isn't nearly as bad as Training Forest, but I think the fact that it takes so long for the two paths to meet up is a really big factor as to why it is pretty boring. You either can play it safe and set up where the two paths converge, which will take a while to finish, or risk it by setting up a defense on the start of each path. And especially if you're playing on 2x speed like I was in the background footage, it's very easy for you to blunder and fail by not Irwin buffing or by not getting a Blackbeard in time. And there's a lot of stuff you can do wrong, basically, that'll lead you to die. So I'd recommend playing it safe here, but it does take a while to beat, so it's not really that fun. The amount you get is also cool, but I think the map itself just drags it behind a lot, behind the other story modes. In fifth, we have Familiar Planet, or Namek from Dragon Ball. It is a tiny little lazy, seeing as it's just reusing the same arc that the World 1 Dragon Ball story mode did, and it could have used something like the Goku Black or Tournament of Power arcs, but it's not too bad gameplay-wise. The mount I think is really cool. It's the space capsule and has some nice moving particle effects to it. Overall, it serves its purpose as a tutorial to World 2 stories pretty well, and it's not too challenging, which will lead to its fun and replayability falling behind a bit. In fourth, we have Desert Raiders, which I consider to be the most average World 2 story mode. It's not exactly painful to get through, but it's not the most fun time either. The mount is decently cool, as it's the clay bird, and the paths don't take a super long time to converge, like in Training Forest or Skypiea. Roger, which is the one I used in the background footage as my main DPS, has Fire Enchant, which counters the story's Nature Enchant, leading to him making it really easy. For the record, I recommend using Roger for all the story modes, and if you can't get Roger, Gun, 6-star, or Tengen combined with Uryu can do the job. It'll just make it a little bit harder. In third, we have Ant Cave from the Chimera Ant arc in Hunter x Hunter. Again, it is a tiny bit lazy, reusing the same arc as the World 1 equivalent, but it's not that bad, since the story itself is actually pretty fun, and it's definitely the most challenging. Like I said with Desert Raiders, Roger can make this a breeze, because he kinda outdated my recent video where I used Gun to beat it. The mount is really cool, and anyone who likes to cosplay a lightning character like Killua or Enel will definitely want to go for it. The one gripe I do have is that you can't turn on the 2x speed until like wave 2 or 3, or D cells will kill you, which does make it a little longer to complete. Other than that, though, it's a really fun story mode, and it was tough picking between this and the number 2. In second place, we have Soul Town, or Soul Society from Bleach. This story was super fun with me, as I beat it with Tengen and Uryu, and it was the first story mode I completed fully with 2 times speed on. The mount looks pretty cool too, but the main appeal for me is just how fun the missions were to do. Only 2 paths, meaning it's not too hard to get rid of the bosses at the end, and I think it's a really good balance between challenging but also not too stressful. One small issue is that all of the bosses are just Shigaraki from the previous story mode instead of being what they're supposed to be, which is definitely pretty lazy. I don't know if it's a glitch or not, but it doesn't take away too much from the actual fun of beating it. While I do love the story a lot, I just really can't say it's better than. And finally, in first place, we have Burning Savannah, based on part 3 of JoJo's Stardust Crusaders. I just found the story to be super fun to beat, as the paths are pretty long. However, they take place on a pretty small map size overall, as they rely on overlap instead of having really long paths. This makes the story take much less longer to finish than others from World 2, like Training Forest or Skypiea, and some of the boss names are also pretty funny, with Vanilla Ice being called Chocolate Fire. Another really good thing about this story is the mount. It's a massive road roller and the biggest mount in the game. I mean, what else could you ask for? I think if the devs keep adding story maps like this, where the map itself isn't big, but the paths are long due to overlap, the story mode as a whole could just be a lot more fun to get through. Alright, so yeah, here we are at the end of the video. And so what the loadout that I used throughout this video is 175 Goldie Roger, Merlin's level doesn't matter, 175 Speedwagon, Blackbeard's level doesn't matter, and Onwin, or Irwin. For Ryu, you don't actually need him. I would actually recommend instead of Ryu, you bring Bulma, because having two farms would be better, because you can more reliably get two Rogers up to his 125k upgrade. So that's what I'd recommend, is this loadout right here. And also Blue Eye Orb. That's something that I realized as I was editing, that Blue Eye Orb I should have put on Blackbeard, because I wasn't using it on anybody, and it would just be better for Blackbeard to have that little bit of extra range. So yeah, this, I would say, is probably the meta for World 2 stories, and yeah, thank you for watching.